Hello, everyone. This is Greg Aden for another episode of Servant Leadership Podcast. And today I have a wonderful guest. But before I introduce you to Ingrid, I want to thank Intera Works for being my sponsor. And as we say, integrated learning to transform potential into results. They're really elevating the human experience, and look for some of their products such as Effective Edge, Best Year Yet, and Essentials. A company I believe in, from productivity, Ingrid, from helping others, leaders evolve. But before we talk about all of what you do, I'd love to just hear who you really are and why'd you want to be a guest today?
Thank you so much, Greg. It's a real honor to be here with your viewers and listeners. So, yes, my name is Ingrid Hu Dahl, and I've got about 2 decades of experience on the learning and development, leadership development, and coaching journey. And I love working with clients, team members, companies, organizations, and teams around how do we have a more purpose driven, more
Mm.
connected, and authentic way that we lead, and how do we actually do that in ways that feel very real, like we're stepping into a part of our truth instead of performing something that we think is the way that we should show up and act in the professional environment.
Wow, lots to unpack just there, and I love how you kind of went think, because I don't know you from Adam. We just met, full disclosure, but I believe that you don't really care what people think. I believe you want to know what they believe is true. Have you ever heard that before?
I have, and I also would say I think it's really important to understand where do those things come from.
Mm.
So what's the lens that I bring and what's the assumptions that I have and perceptions and unpack them together.
Yeah. And you've probably been asked this question: why should we hire you? Why should we have you speak to our group? Why should we make a TED talk about you? And I hope that one of the things you immediately start to discover, or in that conversation, is what value do you bring to your audience?
Extreme warmth and empathy that actually creates trust immediately,
Mhm.
that unlocks tremendous amount of potential and impact in a short amount of time. And in my work, I think people want to slow down, feel the vibe of slowing down, and realize the impact they have when they truly listen, not just to other people, but to themselves, and have the
Mhm.
self-awareness. Because of what I've learned on my journey as a leader and an empathetic leader, you have to do a lot of slowing down to have that awareness and learn about yourself and unlearn things that don't suit you anymore. And
Yeah.
that's an every week, every month, every year endeavor.
Yeah. I just had a conversation with someone who wants me to write a book, and we got onto a topic of leadership development, helping
Oh,
people grow.
yeah.
And I believe, Ingrid, that the mirror is one of the most valuable tools that any
Mm.
human being can have. And my philosophy is, and I'd love to hear your insight on it, is when Ingrid looks in the mirror and she's telling Ingrid something that Ingrid knows isn't true, Ingrid
Oh,
knows Ingrid's lying or isn't being honest.
no.
Our eyes tell the other person, this isn't really what you want to say or how you
Mm.
might say it. So come back and be honest when you're ready to be honest. Now, I know there's lots there, and I saw your eyes go up when I said the tool. What has your experience been in being honest with yourself? Your words, not mine, earlier. And how do you get honest with yourself so you can be honest with the people you're getting ready to lead and coach and speak to?
It's interesting when you brought up lying and being honest. I know I was saying that too. I think for me as a woman and as a woman of color who's also queer, looking at the mirror is actually has three different lenses, and they kind of layer upon I love you and you don't deserve me to also be harsh on you.
Mm.
So I apologize if I've been harsh on you, and you are worth the care and the kindness that you deploy to others. Another would probably be even if you feel like an outsider, which is kind of like the experience you've had most of your life, you belong just by existing. And a third might mean something around the Brene Brown of worth, worthy,
Yeah.
you're worthy, you're valued, you are loved. And that doesn't come from how much you perform. It simply just is. So I would say that there is a trifecta in that for me. I tend to be pretty honest. I think what I try to coax people to do is to be a bit braver in their truth. and to stretch their comfort zone. I think as we get older, we get like a little bit more straitjackety in
Yeah.
comfort.
Yeah.
It's a farce. And writing a book, which I just did, I know we're going to talk about it in a little bit.
Absolutely.
That is very much like starting out as an infant, a beginner, and it doesn't feel comfortable at all. But for an adult, what's right past that discomfort and like, oh God, I'm bad at this. I don't want to be bad at this, is letting go and the discovery of play.
Hmm.
And finding that as an adult is incredibly liberating and feels like we should be creating these environments where not just we're having this awareness and connecting with others, but there's play. So how can
Yeah.
we get more play in our lives as leaders and as people who are, yeah, adults?
When I was researching you for the purpose of this podcast, I would be remiss to say that you're far beyond accomplished.
Oh,
You're very credentialed. You have all the licenses. I mean, more than I've ever seen. And again,
oh,
we both share a credential with ICF. But I would say what struck me, Ingrid, was you're intriguing. You're a very interesting human being, and yeah, and you are a member of the authentic Asian. Never seen that or heard that before. Just 30-45 seconds on that. What is that? What does that
mm.
mean to you, and what could it mean to others that don't know about there's even an opportunity to be?
Thanks for asking. The Authentic Asian is founded by another mixed race woman named Misa Qian, and she created this 200 or so national membership where Asian women who are leaders in their own corporations, in their own businesses across all industries come together and support one another. It's something, the reason why I love it so much, because it's relatively new, is that it's something my mother, who is a tech pioneer, would have absolutely loved. And I think she
Hmm.
craved that. So I feel like I'm bringing her with me as a member of the Authentic Asian.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And thank you
Really.
for the wonderful kindness that you just shared about me. And like, I'm really moved and touched by that. Thank you.
Well, the good news is you'll get the truth from Greg Aden. The bad news is you'll get the truth from Greg Aden. I just, we have a lot of similarities relative to being authentic. And I believe that when we are, as human beings, aligned with another person, great things can happen. And when we get out of alignment, typically it's one or both of us are out of our
Mm,
integrity or we're not being authentic. And why not save time, money, and energy and just say exactly what's in your heart?
that's right.
And by the way, heart, not head. Because
Right.
again, I don't really care what people think. I want to know what they believe is true.
That's right.
And there's a
Oh,
lot.
you sound like quite the leadership coach, Greg. Love it. I feel a synergy from your approach and the language you're using for sure.
Well, I believe it all starts with language, who we're being and how we show up for others. That's where the work is, which is fun if you want relationships. And I try not to, as a blonde Polish human being, I try not to make it too complicated, to be honest with you. Another thing I really enjoyed seeing when I was researching you was
Mm.
the Rutgers Institute, Women in
Mm.
Leadership. And as soon as I read that, I said, sign me up because and again, I don't want to be corny, but I believe we are significantly underrepresented as far as women in leadership, not because we have to, but because we
Mm.
need to invite people that give a significantly different and oftentimes a better perspective of what the heck's really going on. And I believe, and again, I could go into 32 years of hospitality and the old man white
Mm.
club and all that bullshit,
Mm.
but I would say that I have a heart for youth and I have a heart for women who truly want to better themselves and become really good leaders, not just hold somebody's title because they believe they deserve it. So a lot there to unpack. I'd love to hear your perspective of that. And I'm going to ask you right now if there's anything I can do to help you and this institute, sign me up. I'd be happy to be a colleague of yours in that endeavor. But anyway,
Thank you, Greg.
back to
Yeah,
the
no.
question.
Well, yes, and yes. The Institute for Women's Leadership at Rutgers University is always looking for speakers, mentors, folks who can help ensure that there's fundraising to be had because funding is always
Yeah.
challenging for every kind of small boutique organization like them. But they have been around for about 25 years or so. There have been books written about the power of this small, intimate program. This was a life-changing experience. I went through it as a undergraduate college student, and it was my first foray into public speaking training and negotiation and working on transformational leadership with women and academics and advisors who were all in. Like everybody wanted us to
Mm,
succeed and to unpack things that were harmful to society and the world at large. So that kind of awareness, even globally, was so profound. And we had a social action project. So we got some small funding, and I created a short film around some of the issues that I was seeing as a young 20s something woman. And it felt like it was really important to show that mostly with visuals as opposed to the different kinds of ways that I was seeing people were expressing these issues around the politics of housework and flipping things on its head and identity. And at the time, Indian Barbie, and really
mm.
seeing like what does it look like when somebody is of that culture playing with that kind of dressed up character. So I think seeing that I had the creative ability and the partnership that I could curate was really profound in that time of my life. And now I am have the great esteem to be on their advisory board. So it's a fantastic program.
Really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just love when people give their heart and their soul and their time and their money to areas where they truly believe needs a boost. So thank you for that.
Yes.
So along your journey, who would you give credit to, Ingrid, in relative to helping Ingrid become the person, the human being, the loving, caring partner you are today? What
Mm.
who would you give credit to?
Well, actually, two for sure. My mom. So, in my book, this is my mom over here,
Mm,
and it's dedicated to her. She passed away, unfortunately, 3 years ago from cancer, and it was the catalyst for me writing the book. I started writing it 4 months after her passing. So she's a huge part and a complicated character as well. So it's a memoir that are all true stories, but you can see how she was a challenging leader, tech pioneer, but she was struggling a lot. And I think that raw and authentic and confusing experience that she had that I watched and observed, and then the pressures that she put on me was part of helping to shape what I wanted and didn't want.
okay.
So I really think my mom is probably the number one shaper and the beautiful different dynamic in my family. Like, my father was like often the one cooking and dancing and cleaning at home, and my mom was the one on business trips coming back from like Copenhagen and showing like where she went, drinking whiskey sours with her all male cast of colleagues, kind of thing. The
Interesting.
second is actually the mentor, the former director of the Institute for Women's Leadership. She was really the first person I came out to because my mom did not want me to be gay. And when I started trying to come out to her, she was threatening that I'd be disowned from the family,
Mm,
which is in the book. And it was my mentor who let me feel like I was safe. There's nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong with me. And she had this really great way of leading from creating these opportunities to help shift like and navigate when I was feeling slightly depressed or unsure, insecure. She'd be like, "Hey, we've got this little budget for events. You seem like you like curating things for your scholars, why don't you try this out?" So it's more like opportunity nudges to
yeah.
help accelerate my engagement and not just be an outsider that kind of felt like a little bit like cast aside. She was brilliant in that way.
Can we give her a name?
Yeah, Dr. Mary Trigg.
Mary Trigg.
Yeah, she just retired, and she, I would say, has so many young women who've gone
Mm,
through the program who'd say similar things right now in their adult years about her impact.
wow. I love it. Love the fact, and in my coaching, I always get my clients to picture a heart in the center of a circle.
Mm.
And who you're being, how you're showing up as you expand your heart or contract or show up as a you know what, or focusing on your title, you can have a significant impact and influence on the people in that inner circle. But here's the juice. Those people in your inner circle then have their own circle. And how are they going to impact and influence and inspire other human beings? And it all starts with how we're showing up. And would love your comments on that. And how do you coach individuals, teams to make sure that they're not always just being authentic and courageous, et cetera, but how do you get them to be their authentic selves as often as possible? What suggestions do you share?
I find it's really important as a leader to show up authentically first, to model it. So I love being able to say when it's very true, I don't know,
Yeah.
or I made a mistake. I need help. I don't want to ever show up like, because I think I did in my younger career, like, oh, I had this pressure to perform and I had to do it in a way where there was very little room for error. It had to be whatever like concept of it wasn't an excellence, it was almost a perfection. Those are very different.
Sure.
So now it's more around, hey, the journey to get to where we're going with our impact, our goals, our strategy can absolutely be fun, engaging. It can be where we all rally to support each other when somebody's going through something that's kind of tough if they're willing to share. It's wow, we don't have a lot of urgency because I don't believe in that. It really truly has to be urgent. I push back a lot on leaders and support my team because it's not fair for them to be amygdala,
Yeah.
like alarms going off all the time. It's not healthy. But when there is a moment where we're asking for help, people are incredibly reliable. It's not accountable. They're relying on each other because they care.
Yeah.
And it's coming from a place not of like, oh God, I had to like, do this thing because my colleague ever. It's coming from a place of we did this together and look at the results. We share the wins of that. So the
Mm-hmm.
journey has to be something that feels meaningful and real, where the team can flexibly be who they are and how they get work done and signal when they need each other. I love that. I think it's really important for me to check in any meeting like, how's everyone doing? Like, the space, there's the slow down of space to listen and
Mm-hmm.
ask open-ended questions like we do as coaches and lead with a lot of curiosity. I think one of the things that I learned later in my leadership journey was that I was not listening at a level 2 or 3. I was listening to my own chatter and how I was going to respond, not to truly understand or to ask exploratory open ended questions that start with what. I was not doing that. And I was a very successful leader. I think now maybe I'm not successful from a latter perspective, like suddenly Ingrid's an SVP and blah, 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 blah. But I'm incredibly successful now with the teams and the environments I cultivate
Mm-hmm.
and still drive tremendous impact without allowing us to burn out. So, a lot of leaders I experience do not actually like pushback. They don't exactly like challenging the status quo or what I call rebellious leadership. And I'm a rebellious leader. I just
I
am.
can tell.
Yeah, with a ton of heart. So, a lot of people love working with me, my teams, the organizations. We have incredible reputation and a lot of persuasion power and influence. And some leaders find that threatening. And it's
Yeah.
really unfortunate because when I coach leaders, and especially group coaching, one of the number one things I like to bring up is like, this is your network. These are the people to really invest in a partnership and friendship and camaraderie in, not a Battlestar Galactica, like, who's running what ship. Like, no, 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 no. This is a collective.
Right.
And too few leaders realize that and invest in that. And it's a real missed opportunity.
Well, a couple of things you said that I want to just reflect back on is you actually made a few mistakes,
Hmm.
so you're not perfect.
Not at all. I love
And
my perfection.
and yes, well, so thank you for being honest. And also, you said you want the journey to be meaningful to everybody in the room on the team, and you said lead with curiosity. In my humble opinion, Ingrid, I believe curiosity, empathy are two of the most important leadership skills a human being can have. And so
100%.
thank you for mentioning that. Also, urgent. Everything can't be urgent. It just, and when somebody says, "Oh, I'm so busy, I've got this going on, and I have to get this right now," my my thought is, you're not busy, you're unorganized
Mm,
because you're always living in the urgent. And TerraWorks would tell you, and any great productivity company would tell you, when it's important before it's urgent, that's called gold space. That's where we need to
mm,
spend our time. And that's where we plan, we put together ideas, and then we schedule it, and then it gets done. And if everyone's on the same page, i.e. alignment, then we don't have to be in the urgent section. So anyway, just one thought about that. So tell us about tell us about the book, and not why we should care, but after reading the book, what behaviors will be changed of the human beings reading your memoir.
I'll tell you actually from a meeting that I had yesterday with somebody who's pre-reading my book to interview me at a company event. And I was really struck because part of the story that I'm trying to tell, which is a very true and authentic story, it's my story. Ultimately, I really want people to connect and relate across difference differently.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a time period where we need that more than ever to get closer, to return to our humanity. And in this example, I almost teared up because I don't have overactive tear ducts, but I was like, that is exactly what I'm hoping this book does. So this woman is in her 60s, which is fantastic. And she represents the queer community as I do. And she was telling me that, Ingrid, I read your book and I cried. It was so powerful. I had never known that multicultural folks have this kind of experience. You really opened this up to my eyes. This is a white woman. She's like, and I have a best friend that I've had for 54 years. I called her right away because she's mixed race and it had never come up in her 54, that's a half a century
Yeah.
experience of friendship. And I asked her, friend, have you experienced this? Let me share some of the things from this author, Ingrid Hu Dahl's book. And the friend immediately cried. They both started crying. And the friend was like, nobody has ever asked me
Mm.
those questions. And it's deeply meaningful. I actually need to go process it, but it's opened up a completely new chapter for their connection and their
Yeah.
friendship. And that's what I want. I feel like this book is an opportunity to learn from my eyes what it was like as a young girl experiencing xenophobia, experiencing racialized sexism without pounding it in your face. You really are in my shoes. And
Yeah.
that empathy, that curiosity, I hope extends from the page into how we behave as
Mm.
human people trying to have a very real, kind, and connected human experience with others.
Yeah. Beautiful. And the world needs this,
Hmm.
period.
They do.
And
It.
more we step back and observe versus step in and judge, imagine the time, money, and energy that would be saved. And people always ask me, Ingrid, what do you mean by time, money, and energy? Time, obviously, they can figure that out. Money, everybody's interested in either earning more or saving money. But the energy piece is around anxiety and angst. And if
Hmm.
we treated people differently, not exactly how they want to be treated, but how you know they want to be treated because you care enough to ask, you care enough to lean in, you care enough to understand where the hell they're coming from. And when you do, you can ask different questions and you'll get better answers. You'll get more out of the relationship, not because you deserve it, but because you both have agreed it's important to you. And all of that is what I mean by saving energy. And we eliminate people from our lives so easily because we don't have the same viewpoint. Well,
Hmm.
guess what? I'm never going to have the same viewpoint of you
Hmm.
because I don't have your experiences.
Hmm.
And
Likewise.
I can sit here and tell you all the times that I should have. Well, someone could have, would have, but they didn't.
Hmm.
And guess what? Here I am.
That's
What
right.
else? What else do you want to talk about tomorrow? And because tomorrow is the only thing that we can focus on. But if we
And
don't learn, go ahead.
I just want to say that, Greg, thank you for being you and for caring about people's energy and doing the work. Like, I just want to applaud you because it's so important, the work that you're doing and the care and this platform that you're providing. So can I just kind of give you this round of applause? Like, hopefully everyone listening or watching is like, yeah, Greg, you're awesome.
Yeah, I love what I do. And I always tell my clients, Ingrid, then it's one thing to say you will. It's one thing to put it in the calendar, but you need to do the work.
That's right.
But just do the work that you said you would.
Hmm.
You're not accountable to me as a coach. I appreciate your checks. I do, but I want to see you happy.
That's
And
right.
as the person who interviewed me just minutes before our podcast, I want to make a difference in people's lives, not their
Hmm.
titles. And
Hmm.
I would say the biggest compliment I've ever had, and there have been many in this genre, is you coach the whole person. You've made me a better man. You've made me a better husband. You've made me a better spouse. You've made me a better parent. And I'm going to say this, and I would love for your opinion. When you hear this, I believe there's a significant connection between parenting and leadership. What do you hear?
I'm disconnected my personal and professional life. That's one of the things that I hear. That identity is suddenly bifurcated. That's what I hear.
Yeah.
And that there's a lot of pressure to be good in both of those domains.
Yeah. Just be you. Just be real. And you said it, and I'm going to make sure it's in our notes, but you're a woman of great accomplishment, but yet I see and I believe there's humility that it runs deep. And that's what I ask leaders to consider is, again, thank you for being in this position. You deserve the title, but you'll never find chief of this, vice president of that, president of that on your tombstone. It just won't happen.
Or in
Because
your eulogy, which is very different than your resume.
exactly.
If you have another couple seconds, I did want to just respond to the anxiety that you brought up.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of clients who have those really high level CEO type titles are wrestling a lot with fear and control in this farce sense. Like it's a farce. Control is farce.
Yeah.
Um, and desperately wanting to kind of get off this like hamster wheel, which I know we use as like a metaphor, but truly just feeling like you can almost feel the heart palpitations in that. And what I like people to try to recall is when I'm angry, what is the actual emotion? What's at the heart of my anger is tends to be pain and hurt, even sadness. And so for people who are feeling fear, what is usually driving that? If it's not an emotion per se, because people could come up with a lot of different emotions around that. For me, it's ego.
Yep.
So if we're driving only solely based on our ego, we lose the plot, we lose the purpose driven path, and we kind of take a back seat where fear, ego, insecurity is driving the bus. And what I try to help my clients, especially those who have high stakes, high power in their
Sure.
roles, is to remember you are at the center of who you are. Kind of what you said, heart with a circle,
Mm-hmm.
that needs to be driving the bus.
Yeah.
That is what your goal is right now, is to get more of who you are authentically driving that bus.
Yeah. And I noticed we also have something else in common. You've gone through the positive intelligence with
Oh,
Shirzad
yes, I
Shamin.
have.
Fantastic. Anybody listening, please look it up. It's positive intelligence. You can take a real quick test, but it's about saboteurs, and we don't
Yes.
realize how many times, and what triggered me to say that is you were talking about ego, and there's a lot behind ego and narcissism, and it
Mm.
stems from one of our biggest saboteurs, which is judgment.
Hmm.
You're judging another person and you haven't even taken a really, really clean look at yourself in the mirror. But So to end this, Ingrid, what would you like to leave us with other than buy your book? I'm going to make sure that we have a picture of that in the posting. But what would you like to leave my audience with, our audience with, so they can be moved in some way to behave differently?
I think it would be really lovely for your listeners and viewers to consider what's one thing this week that I can do to take action on where I'd be living a bit more boldly, a little bit more in my truth. What was the one thing I might do? And the scale is your oyster here on
Mhm.
what that thing is, but I recommend bite size. Just try it on and then see if you can add to that every week. How might I live a little bit more boldly this week? A little bit more in my truth. If you're interested, viewers, listeners, I am open and taking on new clients for my leadership coaching and consulting business and speaker engagement. So I hope you all get a copy of the book and read my story and get moved to connect and relate across difference differently and get closer to our humanity. Thank you so much, Greg, for having me as your guest. This is such an honor.
My pleasure. And Ingrid Hu Dahl, thank you very much for reaching out and being a guest. It's been a delight.
Same. Thank you.
So listeners, go out and be bold. What's one thing that you might do that's a little bit out of your comfort zone, and nothing's going to happen to you. Just ask a different question, show up a different way, have a little bit more love in your heart. I don't want to tell you what to do, but just do something that's a little bit different and appreciate the journey. It's meaningful. Every day can be a little better than the last one. And you heard a very accomplished woman admit she's made a mistake. I'm sure you
Any.
have too. Let them go. And no need to say I'm sorry, because if you behave in a way that you make people feel like they want to be felt, then you don't have to say I'm sorry. So eliminate I'm sorry by behaving ways, then eliminate having to say it. And lead with curiosity and empathy, as I always say on the show. And last thing I'll say is go out and be kind to somebody and have a great day. God bless. Well, I hope you enjoyed my interview with Ingrid Hu Dahl. Wonderful human being. I hope you can get in touch with her book, Sun Shining on Morning Snow. Sounds like a heck of a book, heck of a memoir. It's not out yet, therefore I have not read it. But some of the things she said about being more authentic, being leaning in, knowing who your circle is, kind of like I say all the time, get over yourself. It's not about your title, but who could you be differently going forward? So I ask you to think about it and try what she suggested. Just one little bold movement every week, bite size, as she said, and go out and serve someone in a different way. And again, I want to say thank you to InterraWorks, our sponsor, an amazing company led by really cool people, one that I call family. Look them up, InterraWorks.com. And my last ask is, if there's anything I can do for you, adenleadership.com. You'll see it at the bottom here. If you need someone to talk to, you need someone to have some group coaching provided for you, or just an hour of leadership coaching, anything you need, I'm here for you. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you on the other side.